Just like the major arpeggios, there are 5 shapes that can be used to play minor arpeggios all along the fretboard. Our examples will fit over a D minor chord. The first shape we'll look at is the A shape of a minor chord. For the D minor, we're going to put our root note, our A string root note, at the 5th fret with our first finger. We're going to follow that with our 4th finger on the same string, and then move down a string with our 3rd finger. Curl down, and then move down to your 2nd finger, then to your 1st finger. We can add in our 4th finger on the 8th fret of the high E for the 7th tone. This takes our D minor arpeggio and turns it into a D minor 7th arpeggio. But we'll talk more about 7th chords and their arpeggios later on. Now let's move back to our root. And then curl up on the low E string and back down to the root. Played to speed, the A shape of a minor chord looks like this. The next shape is the G shape. Now G-shape minor chords have a root note played with the pinky on the low E string. For a D minor, it's located on the 10th fret. We'll start off with our root note, move down a string with your 2nd finger, down to your 1st finger, curl down a string, and now we're going to stretch with our 3rd finger to where we'd normally put our 4th finger, that'll be the 10th fret for a D minor, and curl down to hit the next 2 notes. Alright, we're shifting over to our 3rd finger because that curling motion is, for most people, easier to do with this finger than it is with the 4th. Now let's see our G shape played to speed. This next shape, the E shape, is going to share a root with our last one. Now we'll be playing it with our 1st finger. And so if you are familiar with minor pentatonic scales, this is going to look very familiar to you. So we're going to start with our root note on the 1st finger, 4th finger on the same string, 3rd finger string below. Curl down to the D string, and then hit the G string with your 1st finger, and curl down for our last 2 notes. And then, I'm sorry, I lied, not the last 2. We get the 11th fret with our pinky. And that is our E shape of a minor chord. Next we'll be playing a D shape, which takes the octave from the E shape and uses it as its root note. So that's the D string, 12th fret. After that note, we stretch our 3rd finger to the 15th fret, move down a string to the 2nd finger, down a string to the 3rd, and then down to the 1st. Once we get back to the root, we can curl our 1st finger to hit the A string and use our 2nd finger on the low E. Played to speed, the D shape of a D minor chord looks like this. Last but not least, we have the C shape of a minor chord. Now this shape is a little bizarre and can have some slight alterations in the fingering based on where you're playing it. So I'm going to play it way up here at the 17th fret and then play it down at the 5th fret for you to show you the different variations. So we have a root note played with our pinky, followed by our 2nd finger a string below, 1st finger, and then when we're cramped up here, I like to use my 2nd finger on the B string and then stretch back to the 11th fret with my first finger and stretch up to the 17th with my pinky. When we're back to the root, you want to curl up to the low E and then stretch back again to the 11th fret. Okay, and so played up here on the neck, we're going to play it like this. Now let's move that down to the 5th fret. We're going to be stretching a lot more this time, so we're going to do a slightly different dance with our fingers. Now we have our root note at the 5th fret. We're going to do the same thing, move down a string to our 2nd finger, move down a string to our 1st finger. This is where things change. When we have to stretch, I like to take my 3rd finger and put it where we'd normally put our 2nd finger. That should be the 3rd fret of the B string. This gives you a good deal of room to stretch your 1st finger over to the 1st fret, and then we take our pinky and stretch over to the 5th fret. Bring it back, make sure you put your 3rd finger here, because it is crucial that we put our 1st finger on the G string, 2nd fret, so that we can put our 2nd finger on the D string. That allows us to get our pinky back to the root note in time. Once we hit the root note, curl up and stretch all the way back to the 1st fret of the low E. Alright, and played to speed, it should look like this. Okay? And those are our minor shapes. Again, try to learn them a few at a time. Make sure you know ones that have roots on the A string as well as the E string. And once you start getting comfortable with them, try to connect them so you can cover the entire fretboard.